Hello and welcome to the first real episode of Misinformed. I am your delightful delinquent of a host, Leoniduo, or Leo and Iduo, if you insist on making things more complicated. That being said, our first episode is going to be a doozy of a topic: bagels. What their purpose is, where they come from, who they are, what they smell like in my mind. That being said, you all probably know what a bagel is. You've seen one. They look like a nice little circle, and you know what I mean? It's a circle. It's not. Yeah, I'm sorry. It's not exactly rocket science. I'm not gonna lie to you on that one. It's pretty straightforward. Not even I could mess that one up. Well, and not even I will mess that one up right now. Let's not say can't. That being said, though, the definition of a bagel is pretty standard stuff. It's a dense bread roll in the shape of a ring made by boiling dough and then baking it. Straightforward. Straightforward. You look it up, that's what it is. That's Oxford Dictionary, probably. I don't know. But that being said, it's pretty simple overall. The concept of a bagel, bare bones, rudimentary, It's like a pizza, but with a hole in the middle, or like a donut, but without any of the good things about a donut, in my opinion. That being said, bagels seem a little too simple, don't you think? A little odd, just a little, not much pizzazz to it, no panache. And I could be wrong, maybe you've got some crazy bagels. I don't know your life, but for me, they seem a little suspicious. And I think it's time that we start to delve into that. For instance, dear viewer, the dough is boiled and then baked. Doesn't that seem a little odd? Why would you need to boil dough? Personally, I've never boiled dough. Nah, I see the French doughboy. I see the Pillsbury doughboy, and I say, hey, good for you, Mr. Dough. I hope you never get boiled. That sounds like a painful experience. But bagels, oh, you boil them right up. Then you throw them in the oven, you bake them like Hansel and Gretel. Like we didn't learn nothing from that story. Like it's fun, like it's a hobby. I'm no monster, right? I would never do that. But like, come on. I've done some messed up things in my time. I've hurt people emotionally. And for legal reasons, never physically. I wouldn't do that. But if I were to, I wouldn't go as far as to boil them. Like, there's a difference between breaking someone's kneecaps with a baseball bat and boiling them. Now, I'm not saying either is good, I'm not saying either is morally advisable, but if you were to pick one, I'd prefer to have my kneecaps broken, personally. Because, boiling alive doesn't sound fun. Lobsters do that. When was the last time you heard of a lobster having fun? Didn't think so. So why would you do it to a bagel, especially when it's something that's supposed to help you? You're supposed to have a symbiotic relationship with it. It's food. It keeps you alive. So, you'd think you'd help it out once in a while. But no, bagels can't catch a break. Because not only do they get boiled, they then get baked, which, really a double whammy. Like, come on, have some class. At least let them recover a little. But then you take out their middle. You just stab them right through. And if you're a real monster, you don't even just you one and done it. You like cut the circle rather than just nah. So now they gotta endure that whole procedure, and then they gotta live with that, missing a part of themselves the whole time. And then we go and make donuts, which are just better bagels. Now I know what you're thinking. Leo and Iduo, I already know all this. I'm kind of a bagel expert. And you're probably right. You probably do know all this. And you know what? Good for you. Give yourself a pat on the back. Like little right on the spinal cord. But what you probably don't know is that bagels might just be hiding something sinister in there. For instance, you might be aware sometimes people take bagels, they cut them in half, not like down the middle, but like down the middle. Sorry, that was a poor example. Like hamburger, like the two buns, same thing, but with bagel. And they cut it down that way, and they shove material in there, like, I don't know, sauerkraut or something. Not to say I would ever do that, but, I know some psychos, all right? But that being said, people shove stuff in the bagels. It's like, well, that's a little weird. Aren't you just making a cake at this point? Maybe. Because the difference between that and, like, filling with donuts, you might think? Because you might say, oh, that seems pretty similar. Nah, the donut stays closed. The bagel, you go straight through. You don't just, like, in some filling, you cut through the whole thing and then cover it like toast. And then put it back together. And now you just made a bagel cake. It's a cake, but worse. Why would you do that? It just doesn't seem that appetizing. It's not a donut, it's not a cake, it's worse than either of them. We're trying to be both. But, the reason they exist, if you ask me, is to hide illegal goods. Now, I know what you're thinking, Leonardo, that seems a little crazy. And you're right, it does. I'm a little bit of a psycho on the low. But, think about it for a second. You cut it open, you hide something in there, you close it, and then you boil it, and then you bake it. You boil it to hide it, because, the electromagnetic waves from the microwave are going to mess with whatever you put in there, so it's no longer going to be that easily detected by a metal detector. Let's say I put, a metal banana inside my bagel. I boil it. The dough is going to cling to that banana, and it's going to throw off some of the signals a little, you know what I mean? It's going to get a little kooky in there. It's going to get a little bizarre. And then you bake the dough on top of this metallic banana that's already had dough boiled on it, and suddenly, you've got something real magical right here. You've got yourself a portable EMP device, a device that if any electromagnetic frequency hits it, it'll go through the baked layer, get a little confused, like, I don't know what I'm really doing here, and then it'll go to the boiled layer. And now this is where things get crazy. When it gets to the boiled layer, as you know, things like when waves pass through other mediums, their wavelengths change slightly. You know what I mean? They get refracted, reflected, things like that. That's the right buzzword. But when they go to the boiled layer, just like they would if they were going from solid to water, a little less intense, but very similar, they get refracted, reflected, just messed with just a bit. And by a bit, I mean a lot, but a lot of bits, so it still counts. They get refracted, and they're even more disoriented now. That signal doesn't know what it's doing. And then it hits the banana, the metal banana inside all this. And this is where the magic happens, folks. The banana reflects it, just like it's intended to with a metal detector. But what they're not planning is for the banana to reflect it, and then double refract. Get sent. So it goes back to the boiled layer, double refracts from the banana, and then it hits the baked layer. Part of it gets ricocheted back, re-refracting this whole process over again, creating an infinite loop until it gets so potent that the wavelengths eventually get back out and then create an EMP effect on the device that's trying to scan for your metallic banana that you cleverly hid inside a bagel. And suddenly, the device is fried. Now, I know what you're thinking. That might seem a little far-fetched. And hey, you're right. But not as crazy as you might think. Fun fact, the bagel was supposedly made in Poland. Now, little known fact about Poland, they've got this funky little thing called a red light district. Are you familiar? It might sound a little familiar. It's this funny area where you walk in, and you're like, hey, I'd like some illicit goods, sir. And they look at you and they think, I guess I could do something like that. And they pass you along. They send you along their buddies up top, you know what I'm saying? The head honchos. And they give you stuff that would typically be frowned upon. Sometimes it's drugs, sometimes it's people, sometimes it's other things. Let's not get into the specifics. But these things can only really go down in the red light district. So, let's say you get your illicit goods, right? Get them in the red light district. Let's say you don't live in the red light district. Let's say you live in, like, the beige light district. That's pretty far. It's pretty far. I don't know if you've ever seen a color spectrum or, like, the waves of light spectrum, the UV light spectrum. That's the one. Those are pretty far apart. They're actually not as far as I thought, but, well, let's not get into that. Pretty far apart. Like a couple city blocks at least apart. And you gotta get this illicit good to a place where it's illicit again. They ain't exactly gonna want you having that stuff in the beige district. The beige district is pretty relaxed, pretty calm, pretty traditional compared to the red light district, at least. There's a lot of Amish people there. You know what I mean? They don't really believe in technology. It's a little too kooky. But the police force has it. But the citizens are like, a little suspicious of it, right? But that is the genius of the bagel. it's the perfect form to transport your illicit goods. Because A, it looks boring as hell. No one's that interested in the visual. B, no one's exactly gonna be like, "Hey, bro, can I get a bite of your bagel?" It's not. It's not a donut. It's not a cake. It's not something you're particularly interested in, especially if you're from the around the red light district. I think you'd find more interesting stuff. And the police probably ain't gonna question you on it, but they might see that bagel and go, "Now that's weird. Why would you have that? Why would you have that?" Especially if they see you coming from the red light district. It's like, "Oh, you expect me to believe there's there's red light bagels? You must think I'm a clown." So they'll try to inspect it. And they'll take out their handy dandy illicit material detector, and then they'll try to detect your illicit material. But you hit it. Let's say you bought a person, hypothetically. Horrible thing. Don't do that. Don't buy people. But let's say you did. You hit them in a bagel. Either a very small person or a very large bagel. Not my problem. You're the one buying people. You're already crazy. All right. Don't get into the specifics of it with me. I don't want to know. But you hide it in a bagel. So the officer gets their illicit good detector, and all this refraction happens between the layers of the bagel and the illicit good. And all that refraction amplifies it so much that it fries and short circuits the illicit good detector. And the cop is like, "I'm not getting any readings. Our material, our tools must be faulty." But at this point, if he were to admit that to you, that means he just got thwarted by a bagel. The most basic of all things that I can think of right now. I'm very sleepy. But he can't admit that. His pride's at stake. So he's going to look at his partner when his partner's going to go, "Hey, everything okay? You got anything suspicious here?" And he's going to look at his partner. He's going to go, it says the bagel. It's fine. Let him go. It's just a bagel. It's just a funny little bagel. And then you're gonna get away with it. You're gonna have your illicit good. You're gonna have that. You're gonna be able to live with that. That's the purpose of a bagel, baby. That's my guess. That's my best understanding of it. I've done all the research. You could look it up yourself, but let's be real. It's not nearly as fun to look things up. So, I hope you enjoyed. And I hope to see you again. This has been your host, Leo and Iduo. And you know what? Do your best to stay informed.